The world is telling us as men to be common, to fall in line, to fall short of any visions or plans God has for us. But what about being uncommon? This is a movement of men seeking to build an eternal legacy. A journey of men on mission to rise above the common, to experience sustainable life change. This is Uncommon Disciple. Welcome to the Uncommon Disciple podcast. My name is Michael Bowen. With me, as always, is Jared Gibson.
Hello.
And our very exciting guest. I've been waiting a long time for this guest. My good friend, Guilherme Cordiviola, also known as Guigui.
Perfect. It's better, Guigui.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Yeah, it means good evening, Guigui.
Yes, sir.
So Guigui and I met, and I didn't know who he was, Jared. This is probably about four and a half years ago. It was, I just had got my blue belt, and I was competing at a tournament in Minneapolis. It was a Fuji tournament.
Yes.
And I got spanked bad at that tournament. I got spanked bad. Anyway, so Guigui was reffing one of the mats, but he didn't look like he does tonight.
Good point.
Yeah.
Eyes are diving hair, beautiful blonde hair.
He had blonde hair.
Blonde hair.
Yes.
Wow.
So
are there pictures of this?
Well, they dye their hair before they compete, right? Okay. Is that true?
Yes. That's like a tradition in Brazil. Like always, when you come to America, we came and we dye your hair. But that's don't bring good luck. Always when you do that, we lose. So we stopped to do that.
They stopped doing
it.
So Guigui and I met, that long ago. And then it had been about, I'd say another year or so. I was down in North Carolina competing at a tournament with my previous professor, Iago. And you've met Iago before, so you know who he is. And so just imagine this. So the guy in North Carolina that is partnered with Iago in the Jiu Jitsu Academy is a guy named Jimbo. You might have met Jimbo when he'd come through here. And Jimbo throws the biggest party ever at his house when the fights are in Charlotte, right? When the IBJJF shows up in Charlotte, he invites every Brazilian in Gfteam to come down to his house, and he makes a few days out of it, right? And so it's an awesome time. So I get invited to come down and having a great time. And of course, I don't speak Portuguese that well. And I wrap it up fairly early. I'm an old guy, right? So I'm in bed no later than 10 p.m.
Yeah.
So after things start getting a little out of hand, because Jimbo's got a pool and a hot tub, and not only do Brazilians like to talk, they also like to eat. And they like to drink. And so Guigui told me that I'm only part Brazilian because I love to eat and I love to talk.
You love the song.
Yes. And I love Portuguese music, Brazilian music, but I don't drink, so I can't be completely Brazilian.
Never. Yeah. But right now it's like 80%. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this is kind of a testimony. So for everyone listening tonight, this is a testimony on how your faith can affect someone and you don't even realize it. So I didn't know this, Jared, until we had moved here. Guigui moved out here to Colorado with us over 2 years ago. And we were at a Bible study at a coffee shop. I just started meeting with a few guys. And someone asked Guigui, so Guigui, how did you come to faith? And so Guigui had given his heart to Christ early on in childhood. But as happens with a lot of kids, he had strayed from the faith as there was some hypocrisy and some hurt that he had from the church that he was navigating through. But this night at Iago's house, again, a house full of Brazilians that are eating and drinking, and there's only a few bathrooms because no one's allowed to go upstairs and use Jimbo's bathroom, right? So Iago's got a bathroom in his room and I was sleeping in Iago's room, right? So I'm in the bedroom already. And I've got my Bible open, doing a little devotion before I go to bed. I'm going to pray, read a little Bible, and crash out. And try to crash with all the noise that's going on, right? I hear a little knock at the door, and in walks Guigui. He looks at me with this kind of crazy look in his eye, like, what the heck is this guy doing? He's like, hey, man, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm like, oh, cool. Goes to the bathroom, comes back out, looks at me again, walks out, and then he goes and tells Iago, hey, man, there's some crazy guy in your bed reading the Bible, man, some white guy. And Iago's like, yeah, man, that's Mike, man. Hey, he's a good brother, blah, blah, blah. Right? Starts talking me up.
Let me alone.
Yeah. But what I didn't know was that God spoke to Guigui's heart that night. And really, it was a testimony to him, and he felt like that God was calling him back. So you pick it up from there, Guigui.
Yeah. At this point, I was living in Maryland, and leaving me, my friend Leo, and one other friend, Bettina. These guys live in the academy, but during the pandemic, the guy kicking him out for the academy, and they don't have a place for living. And they just rent my apartment. I don't have like anything, just carpet inside. I don't have any furniture. And I told, hey guys, if you want to move, let's go. Let's stay everybody together. If I have like a one steak, we're going to split. You're going to have for 3 guys. And you can stay with me. That's all right. And everything, man, doing bad. Like, man, we try work here. My old academy, they shut down forever. They done. And I have this guy, Leo. He's my friend. Yeah, hopefully he listened there. It's going to be nice. And man, everybody like imagine, and everybody very stressful. And Leo always, man, he like read the Bible always. And man, that's all right. That's not your time. It's like a God time. Like if the things don't doing good right now, probably in the future, there are other things going to be good. But he every single day, all night, he read the Bible. And one day he started, hey, Gui, I know you don't like too much, but let's read the Bible. Let's read the Bible. And like we start to like, and they read just for fun, like make fun. Wow, let's go. We start to read. But I think this is the points like God starts to talk with me again. And exactly like probably like 2 weeks after these things, we go in the North Carolina, and when I met him, Mikey, and everything happened.
So that God was already working on his heart. And that's the amazing thing, right? Is that, I think sometimes with discipleship or trying to reach people for Christ, we can try to force things and get out of step with what God really wants, right? But the Holy Spirit convicts and brings to and woos the person. And so,
well, it reminds me of when I think a lot of time Christians have a hard time understanding when it talks about the harvest is ready. Yeah. It's plentiful. It's just waiting. Everyone gets caught up overthinking everything rather than just being doers of the word.
Yes.
Like you talked about yesterday, right?
And the other thing, I think it's like, God tried to talk with me a lot of times before. I just don't want to listen, Right. When you imagine that's all right. Like probably like he throw like a little sinus for me, and always like, let's pass through these things and good. But
there was you remember Mike McCarrick?
Yeah.
So they were hosting a radio program called The Bridge. It was a radio station called The Bridge in New Jersey, which moved to Calvary Chapel, Old Bridge. But they used to have a shirt that says, God speaks. Are you listening? Good. And that reminds me of what Guigui just said. All right. So now fast forward to Guigui coming out here, right? So this happens and God's stirring his heart. Guigui moves now from Maryland to Minnesota. I moved from Florida to Minnesota, and I'm training with these guys from Minnesota, and they all kind of grew up together, right? Iago and Guigui and some of these other guys. But Guigui's in a town about an hour and a half away, Mankato. I'm in Lakeville, Apple Valley area. And so as we were praying about moving out of Minnesota, when God called us back here, it was on my heart to start a jiu-jitsu academy. Because I really didn't have any desire before that, but God had stirred my heart because I had trained at a couple of places out here, and I couldn't find a place like the one I trained at. And it was like, because I was leaving my wife and my kids, I wanted them to come enjoy it, and be a part of it. And I said, I wouldn't do it unless I had the right person to open it with and to partner in this thing together with. And I had called Iago and I said, hey man, I'm praying about opening a jiu-jitsu academy, probably just start in my basement. I can't promise anything. It's going to be really, really, grassroots, low key. And I said, do you know anyone that might be, interested? I had some guys' names in my head, and he says, hey man, my friend Guigui, you remember Guigui, right? He came into the room and tells me the story. I was like, yeah, I remember Guigui. Is he doing good? He's like, yeah, he's doing good. Cause I wanted the person that I came, that came up alongside, that we would be equally yoked, right? We'd have the same faith. We'd have the same value system and the same love for people and the sport. And so I called Guigui and I said, hey man, we're praying about moving to Colorado. He's like, oh, I've never been to Colorado. And I said, but hey, no, you don't have to give me a hard answer. Why don't you just come help us move? We'll pay you to help us move. And if you like it, awesome. You could stay and we'll see what God does with this. I said, if not, no harm, no foul. You go back to Minnesota and God will provide someone else. Yeah. And so he comes out, we drive 2 U-Hauls, towing a U-Haul thing. And this thing is like bouncing all over the highway.
16 hours.
Yeah, it was just crazy, but we had so much fun. There was so much fun story in there, but that was 2 years ago. And we literally started training in the basement in a rented house. And God provided all these people and just watching Guigui's growth over these years has been fun to watch. I tell everyone he's my adopted son. He's like family, right? And so I feel like I'm also training him up to be a dad because every time our kids do something wrong, I'm like, hey bro, take a note. Take a note. Don't forget this moment right here because your kids are going to do the same thing and you're going to be experienced. You're going to be a step ahead of them.
I'm already blue belt daddy.
There you go. A blue belt dad.
Yes.
But a verse that was put on my heart, Jared, is as I knew that Guigui was going to come in, is this verse in Philippians 1. And Paul writing to the church in Philippi says, being confident of this very thing, that he who has begun a good work in you will complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. And the story that Guigui will share of his growing up in a household with mom and dad who went to church, what, dad kind of did and, was on and off. Guigui had a faith moment when he was younger, right? And we can think that because someone walks away from the faith or gets caught up in a bad way, that we just discard them. But God is faithful to complete the work that he started. And I know many guys that this story is true. Yeah. And when I sit across from Guigui now, like my heart is literally filled with joy because it's like watching like a proud parent watching his son. But he lives it out. Remember, I preached this weekend, Guigui. You were there on both services. Last week, I preached at our church, and then I preached at a church in Denver this weekend. But I preached on James, the first chapter of James, and where James writes, "Be doers of the word and not hearers only." Guigui is a doer of the word, right? I don't know if I could survive not seeing my wife for almost 2 years like he did. Right. And that's some of the struggle and sacrifice that he's made, not only in faith that God was going to provide, for his residency here in the United States. But he's willing. He was willing to make the sacrifice, him and his wife, and just trusting that God will be faithful in his promises. And he has been, which is awesome, to see that play out. So Guigui, tell us a little bit about your background. You're growing up. I know that your dad was a police officer in Brazil. Where in Brazil you grew up and how you were introduced to Jiu Jitsu. Yeah. And we'll take it from there, buddy.
So I grew up in Brazil in Rio de Janeiro. My dad is a police officer for 30 years in Brazil, and that's very, very hard. It's not much guys retire cops because they die before.
That's really dangerous.
Yes, really, really dangerous. And my dad retired.
Or they're in jail, right? Yes, they're dead or in jail.
Exactly. And my dad retired, and after 6 years, my dad just died. He got depression. He got all the bad things, and he just died after that.
But he struggled, right?
Yeah, he struggled a lot. And I don't knew that. I just knew when I had 21 years old, my daddy, he has a lot of trouble for cocaine. Exactly in my first time when I came to America in 2013, I became a world champion here and stay in Ohio for 6 months. And when I come back to Ohio for 6 months, and I start to see all the things change in my home. And I discovered like my daddy, he used a lot of cocaine, and he started to sell everything, man. He started to expend like a whole money for buy cocaine.
He was selling his goods to provide for his addiction.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at this point, I was good in the church. It's not just because that, like, that's like I'm gonna blame my daddy, but
was he going to church at this time, Guigui?
No,
at all.
No, he don't go. I go in the church at this time.
Mm.
And when I come back to Brazil in 2013, it's just like too much things, you know. Like my daddy, man, he going bad in cocaine, and again, I just prefer. It's just my ego, you know. Like at this point, a lot of people know, oh, who's this guy? Oh, he world champion. And they go in the bars and don't pay like anything. I go drink and don't pay anything. And like people call me, people invite me for go to all the parties. And again, I just, at this point, it's my fault. It's not. Sometimes I could blame my daddy, but it is not. Like I prefer go in the words and forgot like the walk in Christ.
Yeah. Now, Guigui, let me ask you something. So a lot of the listeners might not appreciate this, especially if they've never been out of the country.
Yeah.
But growing up in Brazil isn't like growing up here in the United States.
No.
There's violence around every corner, right? Yeah. Corruption.
Yes. And in Brazil, where I'm from, like you have like two chances in your life. Or you go into sports, or you go walk with gangster guys. And I go into sports. It's not easy, but I start to train hard and start to dedicate it, and my life just changed. Even in like, I have a lot of friends, they're still my friends. A lot of like, they go to the bad side, but it's still my friends. Mm.
So the challenge with that is, from what, you know, Guigui and I have had some long conversations about this, is that you have those two choices, because Hiago kind of had the similar story, right? But he grew up in the favela, in a really hard part of town. Yeah. Where you either become a gangster and become a drug dealer or an enforcer, right? Something corrupt, or you become a jiu-jitsu champion, right? Something involved in sports or soccer, you know, one of the other sports in Brazil. But in jiu-jitsu, there is a lot of pressure to compete at the very highest levels. Yes. There seems to be a jiu-jitsu tournament every week in Brazil sometimes, right? But winning the jiu-jitsu IBJJF Worlds is a big deal. It's a huge deal in Brazil.
It's like a win the NBA or
like the NFL Super Bowl, right?
Super Bowl.
So you become kind of a popular person.
Everyone knows who you are
in the culture,
right?
Yes,
right. So there's a danger there.
Yes,
right, because now Guigui's being, like he was describing, he's being lifted up in that pride and that ego of, oh yes, I've arrived. I've won the world.
I can do everything.
Yes, I can do anything.
Yes.
Now the faith becomes small. He starts forgetting about those things and is relying more on his jiu-jitsu talent.
Yes.
And forgetting the things of faith. So, I mean, and that happens here in the United States, Guigui, right? With guys, they get good jobs, good paying jobs. They start making a lot of money. Yeah. And they forget, you know, faith, or they get caught up in addiction, like with your dad, you know, they start using drugs or alcohol or getting caught up in something else, and their faith doesn't become as important to them.
Yes.
But in Brazil, there's this underlying world of having to survive, right? And so that's the world that he's living in at this point.
Yes. And after that, like when I started Don't Walk in Morning Christ, I'm just like, man, I start to going bad, like in everything. Like I live my life just for bars and everything. I still fight, you know. It's a good fight. Like I still like fight good. But I'm always have the opportunity to teach in Brazil. And I never teach in my life in Brazil. And I told that for you, like, I'm just like, I mean, how you call it, like embarrassing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I embarrass myself because I don't want to give the kids class and give the bad example for the guys. And that's going to be like the better in my mind all the time. And at some point I stopped to train because I don't want to give the bad example. So I win inside the mats, but I'm bad person. Because like I drink, I go in the bars, I do like all the crazy things. And at some point start to like bother my mind. Like, and hey man, I need to stop. I need to stop to training. I need to stop it. And when I stop to train a little bit, I never stop, take like a long time without jiu-jitsu. But I train like 2 times a week, 3 times a week, and I start to get very, very depression. So I go into the one relationship for 6 years with my ex-girlfriend. And man, 6 years. After these 6 years, we broke him. I broke with my girlfriend, ex-girlfriend. 3 months later, my dad has died. And I just like I realized, man, what are you doing here in Brazil? Like, man, it's nothing for me here, you know? And I was thinking like, oh man, I'm back to America. I would talk for my friends and I'm gonna move back to America. At this point, I work at the bank. It's not bad you work in Brazil. Like you.
Did you know that he was a banker?
Yeah, didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a bad thing, guys. Don't do that.
He hated it, dude. He hated the corporate world.
I don't like it. So, and I just like realized like, man, I don't have enough in my life. And I go in my boss and told, hey, bro, I want to quit. I want to quit and go in America. And I want to teach Jiu Jitsu again. And I remember that my boss come for me and told, bro, this is your dream? And I told you, yeah, that's my dream. And he told you, hey, man, go. Go, because my dream is to be like, I forgot. He told you like a doctor or something like that. And man, I'm very frustrated because I'm working here. I don't want you to stay like me, like 30 years in this company. And it just like, man, bye.
So he realized that he had never achieved anything. So he's like, if you feel called to go, don't regret wasting away your life.
You still talk to that guy?
Yeah.
You ever say thank you to him?
Yes.
Right?
Always.
But it took him poking you.
Yeah.
Right? But you took the step of faith.
Yeah.
Right? Into that. Like, I couldn't imagine, leaving America if I wasn't married, right? And just saying, yeah, I think I'm just going to go move to Brazil.
No, any other thing.
Don't speak the language.
Figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out.
Just for completing this time, I was in the college for, I'm almost to be a lawyer guy. And in Brazil, it's 5 years in the college. I do like 4 years and a half, 6 months for graduation. I say, bye. I don't want to stay. I don't want to finish, you guys. And it's funny how God's working. I was single at this point, and I know my wife for like 10 years. And man, we never
Francini.
Yeah, Francini, yes. We never talk more. Like we almost like get a boyfriend and girlfriend. And but I'm crazy at this point, and nobody gonna stay with me at this point.
Yeah. She's like, I don't want to have nothing to do with that guy.
No, you don't lose anything at this point. And after 7 years, we met again. And that's all right. We date and like, oh man, that's all right. I go in America. And the first day I told her, hey, we can have anything because I just fix everything in my life and I go in America. And she, oh, that's all right. Like, we see what's going to happen. And 1 month before I go in America, we start to like a girlfriend and boyfriend.
Yeah. Started dating.
Yeah, I started dating. And I come to America, 6 months in America, back to Brazil. I just make the money for getting married. And 7 months we married. Back to Brazil, married. 15 days after that, I'm flying back to America again. Wow. Maryland. Everything is good. Oh, I got to take my visa.
Yeah, when is this, Guigui?
2020. Okay. 2020.
So follow the timeline here now, right? Goes back, marries Francini. Everything is good. Good pay in Baltimore. Yes. And then what happens, Guigui?
When I come back here, I start to give the class. The class is good. The academy is good. We start for 6 students in 6 months. We have almost 50. And man, the COVID come.
COVID hit. Now, can I explain something, Guigui? When this happened, Jared, and because I'm involved in the Jiu Jitsu community and I watch the way a lot of people treated people during this time, a lot of guys that own gyms liked having Brazilians work for them. They paid them cheap, and it was very low maintenance, right? And they were getting skill out of the wazoo. When COVID hit, a lot of these guys turned their backs on the people that they brought in to help support their dreams. And it devastated me when I heard this. I mean, this is how Hiago met Sue.
Yeah.
Right? Sue was kicked out of her gym. She was
in Maryland.
In Maryland. She was going to go to Canada to be with her sister.
Yes.
She was on a flight at a layover in Charlotte. They told her, you can't come to Canada because of the COVID restrictions. And Hiago says, hey, I'm going to go pick up Sue from the airport. They were just friends. They didn't even date or anything, but they had a COVID marriage, man. It was kind of awesome. Yes. I love Sue, right? But this is what happened. And so people were scrambling. Some people went back to Brazil, never to come back to America. And Guigui now is stuck.
Yes.
He's married, can't go back to Brazil, and he's here trying to figure out what to do in Maryland because you had to scramble as well.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Because the COVID restrictions were bad there.
Yes. And man, in Maryland, we started COVID. We stay like 45 days, I think, so like inside home, like you can go outside and everything like that. But after 3 months or 2 months, I don't remember too much, I just realized like, man, I can't stay more here. Like I don't have money for pay the rent. And what are you going to do here? And they call my friend Jose. We call Coco. Coco is like a little chicken, we call this.
I love the nicknames they give each other.
I was going to say that on for the listeners out there. Brazilians have a knack for what Americans would think would be like an insult, but it's like a playful like nickname that they give. Well, it's funny because
if any parents are listening to this podcast, like if you hear Guigui call your kid Big Head, that's his nickname for every kid that comes to the class that he can't, like either he doesn't remember their name,
or if you have a hard name,
or if they got a hard name to pronounce, they're just automatically Big Head.
Yeah, Big Head. That's right. It's easy if I remember. Yeah. So I call my friend Coco. And I told you, hey, brother, I don't have more job. Like, I cannot pay my rent. Can I come back to Minnesota? And he, man, let's go. Come back here and you can live here with me. And they live in his house for 7 months.
Yeah.
And these 7 months, like the academy is closed. It's like everything's closed for the COVID. And they start to work in the construction. Like I work 6 months in construction.
Let's pick up on that. We're going to take a quick break, Guigui.
Yeah.
All right, we're back with Guigui, Guilherme Cordiviola.
Construction guy. So Guigui now is telling us the story of him moving from Maryland to Mankato, Minnesota. Yeah.
And I can relate, Guigui, because I left Florida, and it was, there it was hot and warm. Now I'm going to Minnesota where it's warm and freezing, right? That's your two choices of weather, right? Now, Minnesota's beautiful, man. I love Minnesota.
Yeah.
But imagine he's Brazilian, dude, right? Like the hottest or the coldest it gets in Brazil is like 70 degrees Fahrenheit, right? Yeah. Minimal. Yeah. And people put like Eskimo jackets on when it gets into the 70s, right? So now he's in Minnesota working construction. So pick it up from there, buddy.
Let's go. So we work in the construction. I work in the construction and, I live in Mankato. It's an hour and a half from Minneapolis.
Yep.
And I'm always working 30 minutes after Minneapolis. So I drive every single day, 2 hours to go in the job and work and 2 hours for come back. It's like I need to do that. Again, like we don't have a choice at this point. Everything's closed. I need to work here. I need to provide my food. I need to send the money for my wife. I need to send the money for my mom. And I go. It's like it's a crazy experience. I'm terrible for construction. I'm very good for them. If you need anything for them, I'm very good. And when my boys realized that, he thought, man, I'm gonna pay you just for coming demo. But because I take I take 2 days for a demo this wall and you do like that in 4 hours, man. So you demo and I pay you, but that's all right.
Hey, ask Song, bro. Like when she needs stuff demoed, me and Guigui, you're like, we're your guys.
Yes,
you want us to build it? We're not your guys.
Yes.
We can tear it down.
Yes. And again, I love Minnesota. It's I have a good family in Minnesota. Like I have a best friends in Minnesota. I'm very, very glad for Coco in my life. He's the guy who gave me the opportunity to come to America. And because Coco, I'm here. If not Coco, problem, I was still in Brazil. I was still working at the bank. He talked with me before I left the bank.
Yep.
So I'm very, very glad. And after these 7 months, I have the meeting with Mike. We talk. I help Mike move to Colorado. And I remember when he told, hey, but take your time. Think about and go back to Minnesota and think about if you doesn't like it here, that's all right. You can stay over there, no problem. And like in 3 days, I call him, no, so cool, dude. And
no, bro. Listen, we got to know Guigui, in a couple of weeks, while we were moving. He came and helped us pack up our stuff from our house in Minnesota. He met Mr. Dave.
Yeah.
And, God really orchestrated a beautiful, kind of transition time.
Right.
And our kids loved him. I mean, they loved Tiago, I'll say. I'm not going to say they liked him. They loved him. But Tiago's like our little spoiled child, right? Guigui was like a little bit more mature. You know how all your kids are different, right? We love Tiago, and he's one of our kids too.
Yes.
But with Guigui, he was a different kid, and he had you could just tell he had a good value system, faith that aligned with us. And again, not that Tiago didn't. It was just a sweet time of, Tiago gave us a good recommendation. I'm grateful for Tiago. Listen, if it wasn't for him, this wouldn't have happened, our meeting. And so, just driving out with him and just seeing his temperament and, seeing how great his English has improved over these last 2 years. He's a hard worker, and you've gotten to interact with him here. So, we started training in our basement, and imagine this, we have these rollout mats in a ranch house.
Yes.
And we've got, during COVID, we got like 20 people.
30. One day you have a 32.
30 people in our house. Now, I didn't know this, but, I would think, people knew that we were a family of faith. So, I was like, I'd never shy about it.
Sure.
But one of our neighbors goes, "We thought you were having swinger parties over your house," because all these cars would line up, But then they started seeing, people come out with their uniforms, and then they must have thought, like, what, do they got some kind of cult going on over there?
Oh, one of those things.
Yeah. But then it was like Halloween, Guigui. We started handing out cards, right?
Yes.
We started handing out, okay, come inviting people to jiu-jitsu. And that was about the time that we lined up with this space.
For sure.
And it's been a good road ever since. And so, Guigui, I've been excited to have him on, but his faith journey is something that I think a lot of guys can cling to. The story of redemption. God redeemed you out of a broken place. And what's awesome is that, a lot of times you don't get to see the fruit of your labor and faith, right? But Leo, his friend Leo, I trained with Leo when he was in Toledo.
Yes.
I'm sure he was praying for Guigui. I'm sure other guys were praying for Guigui. And as he read the Bible with him, he's just saying, okay, God, this is going to be you. And now he's watching a guy that he discipled. In essence, he was discipling you.
Yeah.
Growing up in the faith now, right? That your life has totally changed. Guigui just went home to Brazil, right? Yeah. And tell us about that experience, like going back and now navigating this, you've grown in your faith tremendously.
Yeah.
Right. And again, jiu-jitsu world is kind of funny, right? Like there's, you get the people that have won champions, and Leandro Lowe just passed away. And he was, listen, I just sent you a video of, on Instagram. Leandro Lowe was talking about God, and how God works in his life. I saw that, right? Really... But he also recognized the fact that he was living a lifestyle that God didn't approve of, that he knew it. And that was his struggle. And a lot of men in the world today, this is our struggle, right? We keep one foot in the faith, but we keep a larger foot in the world.
Just
and then
we
wonder why we have this constant struggle.
Yeah.
And there's consequences to our sin, you know, one way or the other. When we succumb to the things of the world, there's going to be a consequence.
Yeah.
Right.
Man, this video you talk about, it's like we just like, I'm all good today. And then when I pass and I watch this video and when he talk like, hey man, I'm just believing in God. I do my best for people. And I believe God's gonna give him back and everything.
And he was upset.
Yes.
You know, he was emotional.
Yes.
When he was reading it. So you could tell he was really struggling.
Yeah.
With faith, you know, with his faith walk, you know, and never met Leandro Lowe, but he was, you know, he was a spirit, not a spiritual giant, but a jiu-jitsu giant in my life. Cause just the way he competed, they always smiled and having fun in the mats. And dude, he would play like he was tired and then he would kill the guy on the mats, right? It was
man.
He was just he was a warrior on the mat.
For sure.
But, you know, I didn't know this other side of him that he was talking about that someone released, you know, about this faith journey that he had and the struggles that he had in the faith. you know, that we got to see play out, you know, in real life. And, you know, Guigui, you know, had met him and, you know, knows more about him than I do. But this is the struggle that we have, right? So when you go back to Brazil, right, there's still guys trying to navigate that, right? Was there a pull to go back to the world when you got to Brazil? Hey, where's the old Guigui? Come back and party.
All time.
Yeah.
All time.
Because Guigui doesn't drink, you know, and
I have like almost 3 years I don't drink.
3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Again, I'm not perfect, guys.
Right.
I'm not like I'm an angel guy. I'm not like anything like that. But again, exactly what we told. Like when you come back to Brazil, where's the old Guigui?
Right.
Where's the old guy fighting in bars? Where's the old guy do the crazy things? You know, like, but yeah, I'm just like, hey man, I give my excuse like I'm getting old, guys. That's right. I'm slowed down.
Yeah,
that's good, man, for me. Because again, in Brazil, it's hard. When you try talk about like Christ, when you try talk about God, people, it's very like, amen, that's all right. You go over there, I'm go for the way. And it's hard. But
which is very interesting because they have a giant statue of Jesus right in the middle of Rio.
Yeah.
Right?
Again, like in Brazil, like if you talk for anyone, I just know one guy who don't believe in God. Everyone like believe in God, but still like foot to your
culture.
Feet,
it's cultural.
But your feet's in one hand and the words in one hand and the God. And that is very
well,
hard.
again, and Guigui and I have had some talks about this. You know, just like here in the Western world, there's a lot of corruption in the church, and people see that. Yeah, in Brazil, you know, they see, and I remember someone telling me this when I was doing missions in Haiti. They say that Haitian men have two desires in life. One is to be the president of Haiti, and the other is to be a pastor, because both yield power. And the same is true in Brazil, right? Power and money
always
come with, you know, the pastoral position. And so that's why there's this, you know, this, I guess you can call it an arm length faith, I call it, right? That people want to, I believe in God, but don't throw your church stuff on me, or don't make me read the Bible, right? But it's good to be called a Christian,
for sure,
right? It's good because that shows a good side of me. And it still allows me to dabble in, you know, dabble in the rest of the world, right? So their life they're not doers of the word, like I was telling you this week, right? They're just listening, but they're not actually doing what the word tells them to do.
It's hard for me. Like, I like one phrase, like, the suffer make me strong. You know, I need suffer for be strong.
Suffering.
Yes, suffering. And, when I move here, I know, like, and I call my wife and I told you, hey, I can pass like everything. Good. The first thing, I can pass everything for, we have like a better life than when you live in Brazil. And I want to pass for everything for open the space for my students in Brazil. And I told you exactly that. Like when people say like, hey man, what I give you the strength for you to stay without your wife, apart from your wife. And I told you first God. And the second, like, I have like a 50 kids, like, I don't like this word. I don't like to say like, oh, I'm an example, because I don't like to be example for anyone. I don't think I'm an example for anyone, but I just work hard for these guys in Brazil. They could have a better life. Today we have a Rebecca here. And for me, man, it's like a huge thing, because I remember when, the last day when I give the class for these guys in Brazil, I put everybody together and say, hey guys, I'm going to stay away, but I promise I'm never going to forget anyone here. Like, we're going to stay together, guys. And the first thing when I come to Brazil, of course, my wife. And the second thing, I sleep 3 hours, exactly 3 hours after all the plane and everything. I go to my academy for see these guys, because these guys, they renew my energy. Just like, I don't know, I think it's like God give me the strength, and these guys help me a lot too. The
fellowship and the brotherhood.
Yes.
You know, and that's the other thing I love about Guigui. He's just so humble, because I know he's an example to those guys in Brazil, but he's an example to me as well. Right? Just the example that he sets on the mat. And I tell people this, I would not have grown in my faith or in Jiu Jitsu if it hadn't been for Guigui. Just watching him, you know, my Jiu Jitsu is has gotten a lot better, even though I don't feel like I'm that good. but his heart to help others. The parents here love him with the kids. He's the loudest and biggest voice in the academy, but he's also the biggest personality in the way he leads, you know, and the example that he sets. And our kids love him too, man. And and I always say, if Guigui asks me to compete, I don't even question it. I'm like, okay, all right, what do you want me to do? If he asks me to do anything, I don't question it. We have a trust and a love that we've built up over these last couple of years that I trust him with my kids. I mean, they're always going with Guigui places. Like, hey, it's 10 o'clock. Let's go get some ice cream. Right. It's like,
Grandpa,
yeah. Like I tell Sonia, it's like, I don't know what we're going to do when Guigui's wife comes out here. It's like, something's going to be missing from our house. We might have to build like an extra little just layer, you know, room.
Build a second guest house.
Whatever, you know, but it's just such an awesome and amazing thing.
Yeah. And speaking of like, kind of like tying some of the things like we've talked about, you know, you talked about like how Mike's action of him just sitting there reading the Bible, that was the right moment and that turned your heart and that pulled you back and kind of helped you reconnect. The cool thing I remember about you, Guigui, is the very first time I met you was at the men's retreat.
Yeah.
And like, that's also where I met. That's also where,
yes.
Yeah,
It still has the water bottle.
And,
it was free. That's why he still has it, bro.
Like I was, you know, I was really quiet. And so like, not a lot of people remember me being there, but I'm an observer, and I always kind of insert myself into like a room when there's a bunch of stuff going on. And I just sit there and I listen and I just observe. And the first thing I noticed was your son, Caleb, and he just adored Guigui.
Yeah.
And then like he was like an older brother, and like I just sat there and I watched you and Caleb interact, and then like how you talked to some of the other like, you know, like people that also brought their sons, and just like how you connected with those kids. And I was like I was blown away, and I was like, man. And it was so much so that like I heard about the underground basement, then I was like, well, I want my son involved with this, because you know he didn't have an easy childhood. He couldn't speak very well. He couldn't read. He didn't even talk until he was 6 years old. And so he's had a lot to overcome, but he like felt a connection with Guigui the moment he's on the mat. And just in the last year of him doing jiu-jitsu, I mean, how you've led the class by example, then how my son has grown, and then his confidence, and the confidence has taken place on the mat because he wasn't confident in his voice. He wasn't confident in being able to read. He felt like a nobody, but now he's like, I'm not great at that. I'm not great at speaking. I'm going like that, but I'm okay on the mat.
Yeah.
You know, and it's given him something to focus on, you know, and it's just like, but like, you know, for men out there listening, living your life by example, living your life authentically, not being afraid, you know, like what did Daniel do when King Nebuchadnezzar said, you know, do these, don't pray to your God and stuff like that. He continued to pray. He left his windows open.
Didn't change who he was.
He didn't change who you were. And like, that's what living a Christian, authentic life looks like, is not changing.
Well, that's funny because Guigui, and I think this is a saying throughout jiu-jitsu, Guigui, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's often said that jiu-jitsu is for everyone. Yes. Right. We have Danny's kid, Elijah, training, who's special needs. Man. And he executes jiu-jitsu and dials in. But imagine if we were like that with our faith, right? Right. That our faith is for everyone, and that we weren't judgmental. Yeah. And we weren't always walking around with our sin sniffing nose. Sure. Right. Trying to, you know, call people out and point out their sins when we're struggling just as much. You know, so hey, Guigui, I'm gonna ask you a question. Yes. Coming to the United States, and you've got to go to church a few times, you know, at different places that we've been to, and seeing the dynamic of the Western church. What would you say to churches, you know, for people that maybe English is their second language, or that they're new in their faith? You know, Pastor Chuck, I think I told you this, who founded the Calvary Chapel movement. He had a saying. He said, "Simply teach the Bible simply. Don't complicate it. Don't make it overcomplicated. Let the word do what it set out to do." So, you know, has there been struggles with you with church and trying to understand and follow, or, you know, have you seen it just be an entertainment show at some of the places that you've been to?
Yeah, of course. It's not like a very easy for me because I'm still learning English. But the church, it's one place I feel like a peaceful, or like I feel God over there. And I think sometimes I understand by the grace for God, you know, like sometimes when I start to like, oh man, I understand like everything, that's good. But again, that happens inside the church. It's not very usually this thing happen. But for me, maybe I'm wrong. Who's me for talk about the church and everything like that?
I'm not saying talk bad, but just like, you know, what would you say to, you know, like if, you know, how could churches, you know, better equip people that are new in the faith or that are, you know, English is their second language?
Yeah, I think so. Like for me, like sometimes they try complicate too much, you know. It's better talk like a very, very nice than you talk like a easy and everyone understand. Sometimes these things like, oh man, it's the church is good, but I think they don't need to complicate too much, you know, like we talk like people study too much, but don't action too much like the Bible, say. And I have the pastor in my life. His name is like a weird Pastor Leonardo, we call, but he's super, super nice guy. And he's a teacher for, how you call biology?
Biology?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's funny because he told you he put in one test, how the word creation, how creation the word. And one of his students put it, God made. And he told Guilherme, pastor, I want to say, man, you were like 100% right.
Yeah, you passed.
Yes, you passed. But how can I do that? But it's the other thing, like he's the one guy, he preach it very, very simple. He preach for everyone. You know, he don't preach for guys like, oh, that's the guy so smart. This guy's not very, very smart. He preach for everyone. Everyone can understand this guy. And at this point, I have like I think 13 years old. And when I started going to church, and I started going to church for this guy, and man, he's a good, good friend. I remember like when man, I don't walk in Christ for a long, long time, and always when I see on the street, I give the hug and they say, I know, Pastor, you don't love me more because I don't go to the church. And he come and like, I love you more. Just because you don't go, I love you more. And for me, just like simple things, you know, like preach is simple and you get more people in your church and people, it's more interesting in your church.
And people will grow in the church.
Yeah, because like I think that happens a lot, especially in the Western church, where there's a lot of pastors. So there's a book me and the kids are going through. Ironically, it's written by one of the editors of the Babylon Bee, but it's the Postmodern Pilgrim's Progress.
Got it.
And I mean, we're not finished with it yet, but I'll give my final review when I'm done with it. But it is phenomenal. It's hysterical. It's funny. But it's so relatable about, especially like in the Western church today. And but what they talk about is like basically like there's this city that they get trapped in, and it's basically this theology like entity, and everyone just gets caught up in overcomplicating it, where they're not reading the Bible anymore. They're just reading about books about the Bible, and they don't even read the Bible anymore. And we see that in a lot of the Western church today, where they spend so much time reading about the Bible rather than just preaching the word of God. And then it then becomes overcomplicated. And then a lot of people like what you're talking about, they get confused, and then they're like, well, this is really hard. There's not a lot of rules. And then like the true message of the gospel and salvation is completely lost.
Yeah, I agree. You know, Guigui, this has been awesome. I love having you on, and I would love to have gotten into a lot more of the stories from Brazil, like the stuff like with your dad and, shooting guys in the driveway, trying to break into the house. That is some crazy stuff. And he tells me the stories like, yeah, you should come to Brazil. I'm like, yeah. Actually, we're praying about going because we're, our heart here at the Jiu Jitsu Academy, and Guigui knew this as well when we started, was I have a heart to want to reach out to those kids that were like Iago in the favelas and do mission work out there and give them an opportunity that, you know, that Hiago was given.
Yes.
And finding some academies and some professors that would be willing to sponsor these kids. And then, you know, we would give to that cause, and maybe even do mission trips out there and tie it with, you know, doing missions and then teaching jiu-jitsu and aligning, you know, coming up with a message. Because I say it a lot of times when I talk to people about, why do you do jiu-jitsu? I said, well, there's a lot of parallels with jiu-jitsu and faith, right? So Guigui, as we wrap up the podcast, we do a thing called Final Thoughts, right? Maybe you can speak to, you know, how jiu-jitsu had changed your life. You know, when you were 14 years old, you had a friend, Leonardo, right? Was that his name? Leandro. Yes. You were kind of a little chubby kid, right? Yes. And kind of embarrassed, and you weren't a big sports guy at the time, but he gave you that invite, and it's like the invite to the church, right? So tell us about that, you know, that how jiu-jitsu changed your life, man, as we wrap up.
So first thing I didn't say, like, this guy changed my life.
Yeah.
He's my friend. I call like an uncle. I was like a chub guy in Brazil. And one day he came and told me, hey, brother, I'm going to put you in jiu-jitsu, because if I don't put you in jiu-jitsu, you're going to like got diabetes like my dad, like my whole family.
Did he sponsor you? He bought your first gi and everything too, right?
So, yeah. And they told, I want to train jiu-jitsu, because I trained judo before, like for 2 years. And I don't know what happened. My mom and my dad would take me out. And I told, yes, I want to go. And at this point, my dad, I don't want to pay anything for you, like your membership. And he told, no, Gui, let's go. I'm going to buy your gear. And he bought my gear, give me my first gear. And he told, I'm going to pay your membership. And this time it takes the membership, it's like a $50. It's like a $8, $9 in Brazil. And dollars, it's like a 50 reals.
Yes.
And I started training. But I just love it, man, these things. Like in the first day, I remember like, man, I was in the heaven, but it's so good training. And in the 2 months, we trained, but I trained good. My professor told me, hey, do you want to fight? And like, how does it work? And he like, oh, you go in the tournament and you fight. And yeah, that's right, let's go. And I have like a 14, 13 years old and almost 100 kilos. 100 kilos, it's like a 220 pounds.
At 14.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Built solid.
Yes. And he told, let's go.
5 foot nothing, 200 pounds.
And I go into my first competition and I won like 2 mats, 2 fights, and I won.
Did you just lay on top of him?
Yes.
just smash him.
For 5 years in jiu-jitsu, I do the same thing. Take down, pass, or give an Americana or Kimura, or finish on the arm triangle. Yeah. For 5 years in my life. That's it. And if people don't know, I started training like very, very young. Like for my 14 years old until my like 18, 19 years old, I never had lose in my competition. Never, like 4 or 5 years, like always like a win. And one day, man, one guy just showed up. This guy just showed up for beat me up. This guy showed up. Me and this guy in the final. I remember his name, bro. Like 10 years ago, Ulysses, his name.
Wow. You've remembered his name?
Yes, I'm going to kill one day. Hey, this guy showed up in the final for Brazilian National. We are blue belt. This guy give him one takedown, pass, mount, take my back. I escape, go on top, he sweep and give him one triangle and he finish. He just like, man, crazy.
You didn't forget?
No, never, man. The first time it happened in my life. And after that, man, I remember like I'm back home and man, I can't sleep for 1 week. Like 1 week, like everything. 1 month after the Brazilian National, we have the other tournament. And they train it. This guy gonna show up, man. He never more show up. He just show up for putting my ego.
So God sent him just to make you humble.
Yes, but you know why? Because at this point, I don't need to train. I can go over there and like kill everybody. Like, that's all right. I go and I'm gonna kill everyone. And I did that. Like the first match I won, second match I won, third match I won, final. And this guy kill me, but kill me. And after that, just like a boom, shock my mind. Oh, I need to work.
You know, here, that's what we're going to end on with that final thought, Guigui, is because in faith journey, there is a danger in thinking that we've arrived, right? Oh, we've been to a lot of Bible studies. We go to church all the time. And then all of a sudden, the complacency sets in. Yeah. Our defenses go down. And that's when the enemy will jump on us.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. And that's a good word to go out. And I think that's a great story, because I say that a lot of times too with people. It's like, even with Caleb, you know, Caleb's been training jiu-jitsu as long as I have. And he thinks, you know, he always, hey, I'm going to compete, Guigui. I'm going to compete. Yes. And you're like, no, you're not. You haven't been training, bro. Yes. You're not competing. And he would say, Dad, I want to compete. I said, Guigui's your professor, man. I'm your dad. Yeah. So if he says you can't compete, I agree with him. You're not competing. So,
and I try. Good, you talk that, because I talk for the kids, like in my kids' class, because most more in America, the people are very, very afraid for fights, or they're very, very shy. And I try putting in his mind, hey guys, you're gonna lose more than win in your life, and that's right. Nothing changes if you lose. Good, you just come back, you train more, and we talk about jiu-jitsu, but that's gonna happen in your life too. How many times I'm exactly he forget the promotion in my job, and just because I'm not a very political guy, the other guy got the promotion. Yeah, and it just like, man, that's all right. Hey, how many times I lose in my life? Like a lose, yes. Like a fight, a good fight. That's just one more. It's the same thing when you have a meeting and everybody, oh, we need to talk. Like, man, I fight and you have like almost 10,000 people around, and I don't care. Now I have like a 5-year-old guys, they think they're better than everyone because they wanted the company. And they think I'm scared about these guys. And like jiu-jitsu prepare my life. Everything, even when I don't know, everything I do in jiu-jitsu preparing my life in everything I do. And I don't know, I'm very, very glad for jiu-jitsu.
You never lose in jiu-jitsu.
Never.
You learn.
Yes.
Well, that's a wrap.
All right.
Love you guys. And Guy, well, I'll see you at home.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next week, guys. Gentlemen, thank you again for listening to and supporting the Uncommon Disciple podcast. Be sure to visit our website, uncommondisciple.com, and download the 12 attributes of godly men.
And while you're on the internet, go ahead and run over to YouTube, like and subscribe to our channel. On our channel on YouTube, we're going to have a lot of bonus content, a lot of videos and behind the scenes, so you don't want to miss out on that.
And if you've enjoyed the content and what we've put out here with our guests, give us a follow on Instagram or Facebook, and you won't miss any of the announcement or events that we have coming up. So be brave, be courageous, and be uncommon.